what you remember from Geometry Algebra 2, but example 1 is already in what we call vertex form. Vertex form of a parabola is y equals a times x plus, x minus, my bad, h squared plus k, right? That's vertex form of a parabola. We did this in geometry. We also did this in algebra 2, right? So hopefully it'll be a nice review, okay? Jack, if it's the first time for you, that's okay, huh?
I remember this.
Probably in algebra 2 maybe, huh? Yeah.
A little bit of geometry.
Yeah. So what I know about this particular problem is I know the vertex already. The vertex is -2, 5. You guys remember it's always the opposite of the inside? Always, always, always the opposite inside. Okay? The reason it's the opposite, okay, you listening? The reason it's always the opposite is because we're going to find the maximum or the minimum. What x value would minimize this out? -2. Does that make sense? That's why it's the opposite, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and put my vertex in there. So, and I know it's going to go upside down. So when I put my xy in there, probably going to go like this. Hold on, let me find a pen to do this here. Okay, probably right about there. -2. So I'm going to go to -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Now, let's get another point. How about the y-intercept? So the y-intercept is not 5. It's not. It would be if it was in standard form, but we do know that the y-intercept, the x value is 0. Does that make sense? Y-intercept right here, the x value has got to be 0, so let's let x equal 0. So we have a y-intercept. Let x equal 0, so I'm going to go, okay, y equals -2, 0 plus 2 squared plus 5, right? So just let x equal 0, and we'll get the y-intercept. Y equals -2 times 4 plus 5. You guys okay with the 4? I just went 0 plus 2 and squared it, right? -8 plus 5, I get a -3, right? Are you okay with the -3? I mean, we're in pre-calc, so I skip a couple of steps because I assume I'm working with really smart kids, right? So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, -3. 1, 2, 3. Now, there is a line of symmetry that always goes through every parabola, right? And so my line of symmetry in this case is x equals -2. It's always the x value of the vertex. And that makes sense, right? If it's got to go, the line of symmetry will always go through the vertex, right? So the line of symmetry is always the x value of the vertex. Okay, now, then, because I have a line of symmetry, I have one more point right there. Because I can fold this point over, put it there, right? Okay, now, I also need x-intercepts. Well, to get x-intercepts, that's along this line, right? Yes, Jack?
I'm pretty sure you put the point that you're reflected in the wrong spot.
Oh, I did. You're right. Thank you. Oh, man. Okay. Yes, you are right. Hey, one thing you're going to like about me, Jack, is I do make mistakes, and I'm okay admitting it, huh? I do know how to do the math. I just get going too fast sometimes. Okay.
I do that too.
Yep. We all do. In fact, every time I make a mistake, it makes you guys feel better, doesn't it? Okay, so the x-intercepts is where the y equals 0. So that's where we let y equals 0. So we'll go take our equation. Well, 0 equals -2 times x plus 2 squared minus 5. Okay, so now there probably are two answers. You guys agree? Probably are two answers. So let's find them. I'm going to add the 5 first. Add the 5. I'm going to solve for x. Right? Plus 5 plus 5. I'm going to divide by negative 2. I am making a mistake somewhere. I knew I was making a mistake. That had to happen. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. I knew I was making a mistake somewhere. I'm like, well, that's not going to work, because you know what I was going to have to do is make a square root of a negative number. And that wasn't going to happen, right? Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and I get a 2.5. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I knew it. Equals x plus 2 squared. Now I'm going to use a calculator. I'm going to actually round to the nearest tenth because I need to graph it. Does that make sense? So this time, I'm going to get a decimal answer. Square root, square root. I'm going to get the square root of 2.5. About a 1.58 or 1.6. So we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So I've got a 1.6, but plus or minus 1.6 equals x plus 2. Okay? I know there's two answers. Has to be two answers because I know the graph's going to go like that. So I've got a 1.6 equals x plus 2 and negative 1.6 equals x plus 2, right? Minus 2, what is that, a 0.4? Negative 0.4 probably. Minus 2, and I get a negative 3.6. So, as a coordinate, I'll have negative 0.40, and as a coordinate of negative 3.60. Capiche? Or better yet, comprende? Emily, go ahead. Comprende? Sí. So I'm going to go ahead and find those. This is why I'm going to go to the nearest tenth. I can graph that. Negative 0.4 is about there, right? And negative 3.61 to 3.6 about there, and I just graph it in, okay? How's that? Pretty simple? So, granted, you could probably put these on a calculator or Desmos and get them, but on our test, I'm going to be looking for the work, okay? No work, no credit. Okay, turn the page. Oh man, that bled through. Oh, that's all right. Okay, example 2. So example 2 is in what we call standard form. Sum y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That's standard form. And I think probably the easiest thing to find right now is the y-intercept, right? So the y-intercept is, from standard form, is just 0, comma, c, right? Because if x is 0, again, same concept, let x equal 0, right? So if x is 0, in this case, we're left with 5. So my y-intercept is at 0, 5. Okay, so let's see here. Hopefully this won't bleed through. Right? So I've got a y-intercept of 0, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now what I'd like next is the line of symmetry. So there's a really easy little, I call it a mini formula, because formula is just x equals negative b over 2a. Does that at least look familiar? Does that kind of conjure up some memories of something you might have learned a while ago? And so I know in this case that my a is 2 and my b is negative 5, right? My a is 2 and my b is negative 8. and my c is 5. Okay, so I'm going to use my x equals negative b, negative 8, double negative, I can deal with that, over 2 times my a value, which is 2. 8 over 4, or 2, right? So my line of symmetry is x equals 2. So I'm going to graph that in, okay? How am I doing, okay? Not too fast? So hopefully today's an easy lesson. So here's what I do know. The vertex lies along the line of symmetry, right? It's got to be somewhere along here. So what I'm going to do is take my 2 and plug it in. So let's plug it in to get the y value. So I'll take my y equals, and I'll go 2 times my 2 squared plus, minus 8 times 2 plus 5. 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 5, and I get an answer of negative 7, okay? So my vertex is at 2, negative 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How'd you get the X Intercept?
I haven't yet.
Then what's the vertex?
The vertex is down here at 2, negative 7, okay? So I'll have an x-intercept probably somewhere in here and maybe somewhere in here. Just visually, does that make sense? Oh no, Malachi, I'm wrong. I'll have an x-intercept here and maybe here, okay? Somewhere here and here, right? Does that make sense? Maybe there and maybe there. So I don't know those yet. I do know I've got another point right here, though. You guys okay with that? I do not have another point here because I can just reflect it over my line of symmetry, okay? Now, let's find the x-intercepts, okay? So, let's let y equal 0. No, so I'm going to go 0 equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 5. Darn it, it does not factor. Darn it. So what are we going to do? We can either complete the square or the quadratic formula. How about quadratic formula? Okay, is it okay with that? Okay, so I'm going to use my negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? A, B, C, right? So I'm going to go, I know my A is 2, my B is negative 8, my C is 5. So here we go. I'm going to go negative B, which is negative, so I'll have a double negative, but I can deal with that. Plus or minus the square root of B squared, which is a negative 8 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is 5, all over 2A, which is 2 times 2. Okay? How am I doing? Positive 8 plus or minus square root of 64 minus, let's see, what is that, 40? All over 4. What is that, 24? Now, since we're graphing, we're going to get decimals. So we're going to get a decimal answer. We're going to use our calculator, nearest tenth, okay, because I'm graphing. So I'm not going to reduce 24, okay? I'm going to actually find out what is. So what is, you ready? I'm going to take my calculator. What is 8 plus the square root of 24 over 4? And what is 8 minus the square root of 24 over 4? I'm just going to use my calculator, okay? Calculator time. So I'm going to go 8 plus square root of 24 divided by 4, and I get about a 3.2. And 8 minus square root 24. See how I do it in 2 steps? I do it in 2 steps because I want to make sure I divide the entire top by the bottom. You guys understand why I'm doing it in 2 steps. Divided by 4, and about 0.8. Okay, so as far as x-intercepts, I can write it as a 3.20 and a 0.80. Okay, those are my x-intercepts. So estimate right about there, and 1, 2, 3.8 right about there. How's that, Malachi?
Looking good.
And we got them, right? And it's just, we're going to just sketch it in the best we can. It is supposed to be curvy. I obviously am a lousy artist. I got a B in art in high school, and the only reason I got a B in art is because my aunt was the art teacher. Honest. I should add a D. Okay, that's all I have. That's all I have. So, any questions? Okay. If you want to use Desmos to help you, I'm fine with that.